Am I sharing my screen? Do you see the screen? Today we will start with turtles in Mexico, level 3. Around 300 sea turtles died from asphyxiation or toxic algae after getting entangled in an illegal fishing net off Mexico's southern Pacific coast. The turtles, of a species in danger of extinction, were buried in sand on a beach. An official said that the fishermen told them that the fishing net was local, adding that it could have been abandoned by a tuna fishing ship without reporting it was lost. Who set the illegal 120-meter net is being investigated, and the guilty ones can face criminal charges. Difficult words: asphyxiation, death by not having oxygen, toxic algae, a simple water plant which produces toxins, entangled, caught, species, a kind of animal, extinction, dying out, abandon, leave behind. Okay, so tell me, what did you hear and understand from my reading of the article before you read it?
I understood that you read about the danger of extermination of the turtle in the fishing zone in Mexico. I don't understand really why they try to catch the turtles, because you read to me that they buried the turtles in the sand, and I don't understand why. I suppose that they would catch the turtle to sell them.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that they were trying to catch the turtles. The seamen, the fishermen, were not trying to catch turtles with their net. That was an accident.
Ah.
The net, as I'm understanding it, was dropped off of the boat or fell off the boat accidentally. And the sea turtles, or these turtles, got caught in the net, and in their effort to survive, they swam to shore, or the waves could have brought them to shore. However, they were covered in sand because they could not escape from the net.
Okay, it's an accident. Okay.
Yes, it was an accident, but the officials are actually looking for the persons or the boat that is responsible for the net being left in the sea.
Okay, I understand well.
So the people were actually looking for tuna. It was a tuna fishing net that was left behind.
Okay.
They weren't fishing for turtles. They were fishing for tuna.
Okay.
Okay. Could you read the article for me?
Okay, so I could understand well. Around 300 sea turtles died from asphyxiation or toxic algae after getting entangled in an illegal fishing net off Mexico's southern Pacific coast. The turtles, of a species in danger of extinction, were buried in the sand on a beach. An official said that the fisherman told them that the fishing net was local, adding that it could have been abandoned by a tuna fishing ship without reporting it was lost. Who set the illegal 120 meters net is being investigated, and the guilty ones can face criminal charges. Difficult word: asphyxiation, death for not having oxygen; toxic algae, a simple water plant which produces toxins; entangled, caught, species, a kind of animal, extinction, dying out, abandon, leave behind.
Okay, very good. So those difficult words was asphyxiation, toxic algae, entangled, species, extinction, and abandon. If we look at those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words and quickly made some type of comment that would include those words, which would help to fixate in our mind an understanding of the vocabulary words, we could talk about asphyxiation being the cause of the death of these turtles. Now, these turtles are an endangered species, maybe, or maybe not. I'm not really sure. But what has happened is that they are entangled in some type of fishing net that is designed for capturing tuna. Now, these turtles is known as a species, and a species is any type of animal, I suppose. And they are becoming extinct. And it did not help that someone had abandoned a fishing net so that the sea turtles were unable to get air or oxygen, and they died from the toxic algae or just simply asphyxiation by not being able to get air. That was my use of the words, and I'd like for you to try to do the same, and you can talk about any topic that you wish, but if you can't think of anything, you can fall back on the article that we just read, but I'd like to hear how you can use those 5 words.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to create a text. Okay. In Mexico, there's a big problem for turtles now, because sometimes the fishermen go to the sea and they lost a net which was used to fishing tuna, and this net is a trap for turtles, because turtles are entangled into the net, and after that they don't have possibility to go outside to breathe, and they died for asphyxiation. And sometimes when the net is at the bottom of the water, they could also dead for toxic algae, which is a simple water plant, toxic. To the fishing men who lost their nets, are guilty, and they are searched by the police who investigate on this kind of illegal activities.
So when we talk about this article, when we use the word read or read, we read an article, or I will read an article. If it's past tense, if it's something that has already happened, it's going to be read. So just be aware of that. And your words sometimes need it to be past tense or have an S on its end. So when we abandon something, I forget what you said, you don't need to use both abandon and leave behind, because that's what it means. It's just telling us that abandon means to leave behind. We could say that the fishermen accidentally left behind their fishing net, or we could say that they abandoned a fishing net which was left behind. But you can't use them right adjacent to each other, abandon and leave behind. Okay. Unless you're saying that the word abandon means to leave behind. But even then, I have the preposition to in there. Okay, so because of the toxic algae or the abandoned nets, the turtles died of asphyxiation or the toxic algae. The tiny turtles are a type of species that are on the extinction list. And what has happened is that they were entangled into an abandoned net. All right, let's try to talk about these words in some other venue. In the safari desert, we can understand why animals might die because of traps that poachers have left behind. They didn't abandon these mechanisms to capture the animals. They left them for the express purpose of collecting or trapping an animal. Some animals have been trapped and poached so long that they are now known as extinct. These species of animals are usually on some type of protection list, but when they are entangled into a trap, whether it's by asphyxiation with the lack of oxygen or underwater due to toxic algae, the result is the same. The animal is no longer in abundance. All right, so there I try to use the words in a different venue. Can you try to do the same?
What is it, a different venue?
A different venue. I talked about animals on a safari. This article talks about fish in the sea. So a venue is something different. When you go to a trade show and they are promoting automobile parts, or if you go to a trade show and they are demonstrating how to fly an airplane, those are different venues. A venue is an event.
Okay.
So I wanted you to use these words in a different venue, or use these words in a different event that does not include the turtles.
Okay. Today, there's a big problem in the Mediterranean Sea because of the problem of migrants who came from Africa to Europe.
From Africa to Europe.
Africa to Europe. Sometimes many people died from asphyxiation because the boats go upside down.
Capsize. Capsize is to turn over.
And many people fall in the sea and they can't swim. So many of them eat from asphyxiation, and it's it's a big problem. I'm not good, huh?
No, that's fine. They die by asphyxiation, or it could be the toxic algae in the water that causes the death.
Yes, but in the Mediterranean Sea, it's not toxic algae. It's only because they can't swim and they come. What do you say when you die because you go under the water?
You drowned.
You drown. Most of them drown because they can't swim.
Okay.
And sometimes they are rescued by special navy to help, which want to help them, and sometimes they not arrive faster, and it's a big catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
It's a big catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
Catastrophe, yes.
So you could say that it was not toxic algae that caused their death. Rather, it was asphyxiation.
Yes.
In addition, there are no animals in the Mediterranean Sea that are considered extinct. So they had the danger of, there was a danger of being eaten by animals or by a species of animals,
Like shark.
such as a shark.
Hmm.
But the people had abandoned their home. The people abandoned their home in search of a type of freedom,
Right. Yeah.
but they were entangled in a web of water, or they were entangled in a web of unfamiliar territory. In this case, entangled doesn't mean that it is a piece of material, but you're caught in something that you cannot get out of.
Hmm.
Sometimes we say that people are lying, they're not telling the truth, and they get entangled in their lies.
Ah, yes. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Okay. So we could even take this article to the courtroom that as the attorney gave his closing argument to the jury, he told the jury that the criminal had entangled himself in a web of lies, and the reason he was selling the drugs was not to help police capture the larger criminals. Rather, he had abandoned his ties to, I don't know, I got mixed up in what I wanted to say. But the goal is to try and use the words in different ways, make it a game that helps to build your vocabulary as well.
Okay. I was very good this morning.
Well, I didn't do too
I
well.
understand that because since the surgery, since the sleeping of the surgery,
Mm-hmm.
I have some difficulty to concentrate my mind.
Okay. Well, I want you to not abandon reading. Reading is a good resource. It's a good activity to do to keep your brain stimulated. So continue to read and practice. I'm going to pause the recording.